Hello everyone, Dan here for the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Giant Size Spider-Man #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics as we continue to celebrate 50 years of the Giant Size brand at Marvel. Let's take a look at the creative team here. We have a story by Melissa Flores with pencils by Alva Glass, Elisabetta D'Amico on inks, Ferris Cifuentes Suho on colors, letters by Ariana Mayer, and we'll see a plethora of covers, including the main cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. In this book, swinging from the pages of Spider-Man Smash, Gwen Stacy has finally found some balance in her home dimension. But when the remnants of Carnage symbiote resurface in Gwen's bandmate Mary Jane, they attract the attention of something sinister. Orlando Octavius, the adopted son of Dr. Octopus, now has his sights set on MJ, and Spider-Man will have to save a friend from a gauntlet of new and terrifying villains in this oversized spectacular, also featuring a reprint of Spider-Man 13 from 2015, in which Gwen and the Mary Janes first faced off against Earth 65 Mysterio. That's a lot of stuff happening, but I'm pretty big fan of these books. I think these oversized, usually one-shot stories, just make things a lot of fun. And then the idea of the Carnage symbiote taking over one of Gwen's friends and bandmates in the story, I think sounds like a lot of fun. So let's go take a look at some of the preview art. Um, Earth 65 has had a very distinct look from the beginning, which is a little bit more stylized, a little bit more manga-esque, if you will. Definitely the characters have this just little details that make them, just more stylized, more of a cartoony look. Definitely very different from a lot of the art that we get in the normal 616 universe. So this is really cool. Very dynamic movements here. I like the design of Carnage integrating Mary Jane's red hair, the iconic red hair. So that's really cool. And then we move on to what's next in the story. How will this play out? If you can contain the symbiote within Mary Jane, can you even help her out? So this is going to be really interesting. I wonder why they are reprinting that specific issue of Spider-Man. Like maybe Mysterio is going to come into the picture coming up in one of the stories from when. So that'll be really interesting. One thing I still don't really much care for is the name Spider Ghost, but at this point I've just kind of learned to accept that within that universe that's what that's what Gwen's gonna be called. So it is what it is. So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Miss Marvel Mutant Menace #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. This is written by Xavier Piersada and Iman Vellani, with art by Scott Godlowski, colors by Eric Arcienega. Hated and feared, Miss Marvel has officially come out to the world as a mutant and a member of the X-Men, and she's just about to learn how hard things can get for mutant kind. Kamala Khan is used to being a hometown hero. There's no way her community would turn on her just because she's a mutant, right? Right? The writers of the hit Miss Marvel, the New Mutant miniseries, including the MCU's own Kamala Khan, Iman Vellani, return to the chronicle Miss Marvel's next steps into exploring her mutant identity. So the first series, I think, was overall very well received and pretty successful. I think it's probably because of how busy probably Iman Vellani is that they're breaking up into this, like this story is just being broken up into a little miniseries. For some reason in my head, I have like an inkling that it's going to be three different series that follow this story along. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't know why. I don't know why that number is in my head. But this is pretty exciting stuff. Like I said, having somebody who portrays the character play, or somebody who plays the character write the character, I think is really interesting, right? We also have Paul Dano, who played the Riddler in the Batman, also wrote a story for the Riddler, and even Danny DeVito, who played the Penguin, has written Penguin story. So let's go take a look at some of the preview art so we can move on and talk more about this upcoming book. I think the idea of Kamala Khan being hated for being a mutant is really interesting, and it just goes to show how public opinion can sway and change very quickly from one moment to the other. uh I like the signs, the iconography, like all these, they would pick Wolverine is pretty much the more iconic one. I kind of grew to like the X-Men outfit that Ms. Marvel wears. I like that she's embracing mutanthood. So whatever you think of that change to her, she's still an inhuman. She's just also now a mutant. So, and of course, seeing here just really fun dialogue. I like her changing into this like big old trench coat thing to kind of hide in plain sight. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I wonder. I like seeing that the neighborhood is kind of talking about her, and she hears all this stuff. And of course, she's a young impressionable person that's grown up probably, with different, like, being criticized for different things from society. So adding now the mutanthood to it, I think is just something really interesting to explore. So of- hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for The Spectacular Spider-Man #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Greg Weisman with pencils by Humberto Ramos, inks by Victor Olazaba, and colors by Edgar Delgado with letters by Joe Caramagna. I am a big fan of Humberto Ramos, especially on a Spider-Man book. He had a really pretty long run with Dan Slott back in the day, which I was a big fan of. So, in this book, the stars of two of Marvel's biggest series come together in their first ongoing series ever. That's right, Peter Parker and Miles Morales are going to team up on the regular, comparing notes and using said notes to take on some of their most dangerous bad guys. This duo is better than dynamic, amazing, sensational, or superior. They're spectacular, with Greg Weisman, writer of the fan favorite animated series Spectacular Spider-Man, and also returning to Spider-Man along with the legend Humberto Ramos. This is going to be epic. So, yeah, I mean, you got Greg Weisman, probably the writer on one of the um, most beloved Spider-Man animated shows that we've ever had, and Humberto Ramos, who's just a legendary artist. Like, this book, I feel like it's gonna be so much fun. Really poised for success. It's fun to see Miles and Peter work together because they have a very intriguing and complicated and very interesting relationship. But overall, like, you know, this isn't the Peter that Miles knew back in the day, because that Peter passed away, obviously, from his own universe. Then everything got kind of merged into one universe. So, like, having to readapt and relearn. And there are so many Spider-Man books that are really good right now, that I can't believe that they're doing another title to compete with what I would call the main title, which is the Amazing Spider-Man, which unfortunately to me is the one that I'm least interested at the moment. So let's go take a look at some Humberto Ramos's art, because, like I said, it's beautiful. His designs are so dynamic and fluid, and just very long and stretch bendy positions that I see. Like, this is kind of what I love to see in a Spider-Man design. And of course, these two teaming up. I see. So I can already read some great dialogue from these few preview pages. So I think that's going to be interesting. And then also, it looked like we're going to be seeing Peter and Miles hanging out outside of their costumes, which is not something that we see very often, right? These two normally hang out when they have to team up. So yeah, that'll be really fun ongoing. Probably talk more about this when I get a chance to read it. But hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Weapon X-Men #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team here. This is written by Christos Gage, with art by Yidelar Sinar, Nolan Willer on colors, letters by Clem Cowles. Apologies if I mispronounced, which I probably did, a lot of those names. Um, that was a lot of very difficult names to pronounce in a row. So, in this book, a multiverse of Logans bands together. In original X Men, you saw the Phoenix recruit the young X-Men to fix another time displays disaster, but now the threat is deadlier than ever and it's time to call in the X-Men's big gun. He's the best there is at what he does in every universe that he does it in. And this job is too big for just one of him. Wolverines from across the multiverse converge to take on a foe even the Phoenix fears. But with friends like Zombie Wolverine, who needs enemies? This is going to be a new action packed epic. So it looks like this is a bit of a continuation of the original X Men book, which means this is all taking place in a different universe. But that also makes it very like new reader friendly because you don't have to have all that additional knowledge. Also, looks like we're going to get some pretty sick versions of Wolverine. So let's take a look at some of the preview art and get into that. We have the Age of Apocalypse, of course, the Wolverine with the missing hand, and it gives you a little bit of a breakdown of his backstory. We also have Wolverine of Earth 2049, who is overrun by the deadly zombie contagion, which doesn't feel like that's somebody you should bring. We also have Wolverine from Earth 9997, aka Earth X, who looks like he's had better days. Maybe um, maybe he's just kind of tired of the same old stuff. We have Wolverine of Earth 807128, Old Man, Logan, and of course Jane Howlett of Earth 1281 from around the 1900s. So what a cool team! I really like that. I like the character designs. I like that they kind of picked really interesting different Wolverines that probably won't be able to work together. And then, of course, the inclusion of the Phoenix, the inclusion of like the recap here of what happened in the previous series, in case you haven't read it. The mere mention of Onslaught should make you wonder that how big this is gonna get. So this is pretty exciting stuff. I like Crystal's Gage work, and I'm a big fan of the remainder of the team from other pieces of work. So very excited to read this. Also, really amazing covers, I gotta say. We have Todd Knock, John Boyce, and Mayer, and then of course the main cover. Like just really, really cool stuff. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be talking about what just happened in Ultimate X-Men #1. Let's talk about the creative teams in case you missed our preview. So this book is written and with art by Peach Momoko, with a script adaptation and translation by Zach Davidson, letters by Travis Lanham. So this is the third title in the Ultimate Universe, completing for now the debuts of these titles, and I'm very excited. So let me give you a quick synopsis of what's going to happen. Then we are going to get into spoilers. If you haven't read the book, make sure to go read the book or go check out our preview video where we talk about a little bit what this book should be about. But we're going to get into all the details. We're going to get into the story. I will advise content warning for suicide in this book. I'm surprised that Marvel didn't have anything up front, but they do have a little message at the back of the book. In this book, visionary creator Peach Momoko creates a new generation of X-Men for an all-new universe. Hisako Ichiki, a teenage girl who just wants to live a normal life, go to school, hang out with her friends, ignore the political strife broiling over after the events of Ultimate Invasion, but life has other plans for her. In Japan, urban legends have sprung to life and brought some unusual new powers with them. Meet Armor Maystorm and a group of new Ultimate X-Men like the likes you've never seen before. So I will tell you, in this issue, we really only follow Isako, or Hisako. We really only follow her throughout the adventures, but there's definitely a lot of setup. There's definitely a lot of really interesting stuff that's kind of played out. So when we first meet her, we see that she's at school. She's kind of an outcast, and there's something going on. There's definitely tones of an incident that has happened at the school with one of her friends. that unfortunately has passed away. Um, and she feels guilty for that. And this is when she starts having some visions. So it's really, they really lean into the urban legend aspect of this. I think also Peach Momoko very smartly leans into a little bit of the more horror style vibes of this. Um, and that's kind of where we go. So let's look at these other pages that I pulled. Here we see that Isako is being chased by this entity that has invited her over to the temple, where her friend and her used to meet, and now this entity is kind of chasing her, and also like after her. She knows that this entity is definitely up to no good. She has visions of her old friend, which are terrifying. Both this entity, the zooming in on the eyes, like everything that's going on here is pretty, like, for an X-Men book, feels pretty horrific. Now, I have some inklings that I would think that this is some sort of version of the Shadow King, maybe combined with like some local urban lore. But this could be a whole new thing. I'm just trying to think as we go into this, because we are adapting Armor, who is an existing character, and Peach Momoko is kind of retelling and rebuilding that world. I'm like, who else could we bring in from the X-Men world that would have a tone that is so dark as this? And the Shadow King is the only character that kind of came to mind that would go through these lengths. The abilities that this entity has to kind of communicate in the darkness, display these visions and show these horrific things. So Isako does eventually, as she's running away, her powers come to life, which is really cool, really well done. I love the first appearance of this armor that we know very little about, except that it looks really cool. Now, the news plays this incident off as a drunk driver, but Isako is the only one that kind of knows the truth, right? So she keeps being kind of confronted by this entity all throughout. But when we have what I call the final showdown of the first episode or the first issue, it is really, really cool. We have this entity once again showing up, and I love the lettering for the voice of the entity. I think it's really like it just really adds a little bit to that tone of darkness. It feels weird. It looks weird. Even the facial expressions when they show up. But then I love the design of the armor, and we see a little bit more detail in the next preview image. But as this entity attacks, the armor springs into action to protect her. I don't think Isago's really controlling any of this yet, but I wanted to highlight two of my favorite panels. Right, just this armor, very much looking like a samurai armor that kind of sprung to life around her, and I think, and I have a feeling that this armor, because it's all based on like a little charm that her friend gave her, I think this might be like containing the spirit or the soul or something like that of her friend who has passed away, and now maybe he's come back to protect her. That's why I feel like the armor acts independent of her, right, without her really having to do anything. But yeah, just look at these two really cool panels. Peach Momoko's kind of like water style, painterly style, really brings all this to life. So yeah, I really enjoyed this first issue. I think this really very nicely rounds out the first wave of these Ultimate Universe comics. And we haven't even met anyone yet, other than Isako and Armor. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens next. In the preview and the covers that you'll see at the end of the video, we have a character that's very Storm-like. So I think that might be the new iteration of Storm in this, or at least somebody that's kind of like Storm. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what goes on. We'll keep talking about these books because I really, really love the Ultimate line. I don't think there's one bad book among those. So hello, everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for X-Men number 32 as we continue on the fall of the House of X. Let's take a look at the creative team here. In this book, we have writing by Gary Duggan with art by Phil Noto and Clayton Cowles on letters. And I love that they show us who's going to be here and look at who's back. Our big boy Lockheed, that is Shadowcat's dragon, Kate Pride's dragon, who's now going by Shadowcat. And we also have Emma Frost and Magic. So this book is really kind of wrapping things up as far as like the X-Men line. I will say my one qualm about this is that although everything that's happening in the book is kind of cool, we've already seen a lot of these characters a little bit into the future because of the other books that are going on. Feels like the timing's a little off. I don't know. There's just maybe this is just like we'll give you a fun little ride while you also figure that, while you look at that stuff. So I don't know. That's really my only concern. But in this issue, besties with bloody blades, Kate Pride and Ileana Rasputin have been best friends for a long time. They've had good times, they've had bad times, but one thing they can always agree on: stumping anti-mutant bigots' heads is amazing. So yeah, I mean, who doesn't agree with that? Anytime you can get one up on bigots, I think that's a win for everyone. So um, I love Phil Noto's art. I think I've mentioned that before, so we'll definitely talk about that in a second. But this is just two of my favorite characters being brought to life to kick ass, all while we follow Emma Frost and her machinations of like how does she help out mutants while everything else is going on around her. We saw that in the last issue of the Invincible Iron Man, they've kind of parted ways, and I think this kind of picks up right after that. So this is really kind of fun to follow her around and see how that played out. And yeah, let's take a look at some of the preview art. As I mentioned, Phil Noto is just a fantastic artist. Like I could watch him draw X-Men for the next 10 years and I don't think I would get bored of it. Like very cool style, very expressive faces, which I really like. But when it comes to the battles, and you will see here as we see here, like Magic's been infected with something, and you can tell right off the bat something's off. Right? She's not teleporting. If you look at her eyes, like she's got the bags under her eyes, like something's wrong. Obviously, she falls flat on her face, but she's still a badass. And later on, you do see Kate Pride coming to help out. And as I mentioned, we get Lockheed back as well. So like, yeah, this book is full of surprises, full of really fun stuff. It's definitely our path to what we are currently reading in the twin series of Fall and Rise. Um, but it's still a fun ride. So I do not expect everyone to like follow these books along all the way till the end because I understand that there's only so much time to read comics. But X-Men has been, especially X-Men by Gary Duggan, has been so good since the beginning that I'm just gonna see it all the way through to the end. Even if whatever happens at the end of the series just kind of leads us to the stuff that I'm already reading, I think it'll be a fun ride regardless. And of course, beautiful covers at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Uh, Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Aliens What If #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. This is What If Carter Burke Had Lived, and this is co-written by the actor himself, Paul Reiser. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's talk about the creative team behind this. So, of course, we have a lot of different people credited on here because Aliens, like this is based off existing property, right? So we have, of course, Paul Allen Reiser with Adam Goldberg, Hans Rodinoff, and Brian Volk Weiss. I feel like a lot of this stuff is, just brought into this world with these creators. But part one is written by Hans Rodinoff and Adam F. Goldberg with art by Guy Villanova, colors by Ian Nitro, letters by Glenn Cowell, and a fantastic main cover by Phil Noto. We also have a few more covers at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Um, Interestingly enough, this is actually a what if for the one Alien movie that I haven't seen. This is for the Aliens film, right? So this is the second film in the franchise, and this is the only film that I haven't seen. So interestingly enough, like I'm getting kind of caught up in the movie, and then taken in a different ride. So let me give you a quick synopsis, and we'll keep talking more about this book. What if Carter Burke had lived? For years, fans of James Cameron's legendary Aliens question whether Carter Burke, a company man more hateable than the Xenos themselves, had actually survived the traumatic events on the terraforming colony Hadley's Hope. Now, the actor behind the beloved villain, Paul Reiser, joins his son, Leon, and the star studded team of writers and producers Adam Goldberg and Brian Volkweis and Hans Rudenoff for a journey back to Hadley's Hope and the twisted escape of a man who should have died. Uh, I like that. I like the concept a lot. I think the story, first of all, even though I was coming into this as somebody that hasn't seen the film, the book gave me enough information just to, that combined with like just knowing about the Aliens franchise, like I never felt out of the loop. I've never felt out of place. Um, it seeds very much what we know has happened in the film, but also then very smartly takes you on a separate direction, right? It starts moving pieces enough that we end up in a completely different tangent world, which is, I think this is very well done. I don't understand how there's so many people on the behind this book, but they managed to do a very good job um, recapturing the voices, especially like I've the only character that I know from this is like Ripley, but it really felt a lot like her. And I hope that for those that have read this, that they also feel like the other voices of like Gorman and Hudson and Vasquez, like all these people, they really sound like themselves. So you guys let me know about that in the comments. I really can't judge the book based on that, but I can tell you that Guy Villanova's art is really cool. It really fits this world. It's a little bit like heavy inks, a lot of shadows, which really play well in an Aliens franchise book. The characters, although not exactly photorealistic, have a lot of very distinct characteristics of like, oh, this is definitely like this is Ellen Ripley or a version of Ellen Ripley, right? This is Paul Reiser. I think Paul Reiser's probably the character that looks the most like his real life counterpart, and you'll see that in this next page a little bit more. Like, just look at that sniveling face. Yeah, this is really cool. And then, of course, when the Xenomorphs like they eventually get in and attack everyone, this is when things kick into action. And I think if you've seen the film, you know what happens to the crew next. But I hadn't, so I was really on this ride to follow along the character of Carter Burke, which is snivelly, like company man, anybody that works directly for Wayland Utani, we know that they're up to no good. There's a really interesting conversation between Burke and Utani as well. Um, that I don't think I'd ever seen anyone. Maybe I have, and I just don't remember. But I don't remember much about people talking to actually like founders or owners, I guess, of the Utani company. So that was really cool. And then from there, this book kind of goes on to like, this man has lived his life after the events of here. What the hell's happening now? And they set up a really cool premise at the end of this. So yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy this. I like Aliens. I love the coverage, and I love what Marvel's been doing with this because I feel like they haven't gotten too greedy as to like, we're just gonna publish 10 alien books because these guys will buy anything that says aliens on it, right? They really taken the time and care to do fun projects. We have this. We have Declan Shalvey's story that's going on. We have the Black, White, and Blood anthology. So like, yeah, it's a good time to be an Aliens fan. So hello, everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Thanos #4. This is a new book from Marvel Comics and the end of this miniseries. So let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Christopher Canwell with art by Luca Pisari and Herman Peralta, Ruth Redmond in colors, letters by Corey Petit. Here we are. This is it. Thanos versus Death. If you've been following along, Thanos went to this city and he kind of took the whole city hostage and into space because he knew that a woman that lived there was actually Death, posing or being turned into a human. And you guys know that Thanos has an obsession with death. A new group of Illuminati has shown up to save Death. They had a deal with Death, but in this issue, we get to see that this is the final confrontation between Thanos and Death. So, as Death rejects Thanos once and for all, the Mad Titan does not take it well. What follows is the most consequential fight in the history of the Marvel Universe. That is crazy. That I don't know what Marvel's setting up with this series, but once you get to the end of the book, like I'm very excited to see what they do next. So, yeah, this series was a lot of fun. I think that Christopher Canwell wrote a very concise, quickly paced story for the most part, but it's very effective into giving us all the little pieces that we need. And like I said, I feel like Marvel's setting up something really cool. Uh, this is not really a spoiler, but once you get to the end of the book, we just get an announcement that Thanos will return in the summer. Now, I haven't seen anything announced, but I'm very excited to see what that is. All that, along with great art by both Pizzara and Pizzari and uh, Peralta. Really cool stuff. Like, just they really captured the craziness and the chaos of this big battle. So let's take a look at some of that preview art. We get to see a little shot of before when things were calm, a little bit of narration, which I appreciate that the lettering feels different. Like the narration lettering just kind of feels different from everything else. Also, that's dialogue, of course, with the inversion of colors, and even Thanos just with the additional extra bubbles. Like it really feels like his voice is booming, right? So, really cool design for Death, like very edgy. I love that. I've never seen Death actually fight, which is interesting. Like, how do you fight Death? But also the fact that Thanos can just kind of take it, and he's like, "Well, since you have betrayed me and you're not who I thought you were, you now must die." Can you kill Death? I don't know. You would read the issue to find out, I guess. But I guess I do know. Um, but yeah, this is crazy. Like, just look at this page. Like, the Illuminati, like, they are outclassed, outmatched, uh, and just I don't know. It's like Christopher Campbell managed to elevate this story to like epic proportions in 4 issues, and that's not something that's easily done in the Marvel universe. So, very satisfying conclusion, very fun story, and I kind of want to see more of this group of Illuminati. So hopefully that happens in the future. So if you have read this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.